All right, Mike, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you
As we
very
look
much
back,
for having
it's been 4 years now since PAPSS as a concept kicked off. And I guess maybe a good place to start is help us appreciate, what we've been able to achieve so far in terms of milestones. What have we created with PAPSS right now?
Okay, well, we launched PAPSS in January of 2022. So it's been 3 years since we launched PAPSS. Again, it started, first of all, with building this core infrastructure, which is an instant payment system, which meets with global standards and is built based on the ISO 222 messaging standard. And it's also certified against most of the major global standards as it relates to payment systems. Now we took this payment system and we connected to central banks. We started with 6 central banks, the 6 central banks within the WAMSI zone, but now we have 16 central banks. These are Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia in West Africa. We've also connected to Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Djibouti, Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, Egypt, Tunisia, Comoros. I think I've captured all 16, but we've connected to 16 central
So what does that mean now?
So what we've now done now, because actual trade transactions and customer-related transactions are not initiated by central banks. So now we've taken this further. We've connected 150 commercial banks, and these are some of the largest and biggest brands, from UBA to Zenith Bank to Equity, KCB. We've connected them and EcoBank onto the same platform. We have also integrated 14 switches across Africa. Now, on that basis, we have been able to link actually over 500 million bank accounts across Africa on the same platform. Now, transactions for PAPSS started, first of all, being done over the counter in bank branches. That, of course, limited the transactions that you see after 5 p.m., for example, and it meant that there were limited transactions over the weekend. Now, over time, we now have situations where banks have so accepted PAPSS that they have extended PAPSS to all their digital channels. So you now have transactions of customers originating on mobile devices in one local currency and terminating in another account or wallet on the other side of the device.
And that will be instant, close to instant.
It's
Exactly.
So we made a commitment to the market that this will be completed in 120 seconds maximum. However, since we went live, we've been averaging about 7 seconds for every transaction. And just note that between the origination of the transaction and the ending of the transaction, there are a number of governance and risk infrastructure that sits in between. So we have our AML systems, we have our sanction screening system, and we have our fraud management systems. So all this happens in between to deliver a safe transaction to the beneficiary in a maximum of 120 seconds.
And benchmarking this against global standards, how does the PAPSS infrastructure compare with what we have elsewhere in the world?
Well, there are a few global infrastructures that you can compare with PAPSS. However, when you consider that PAPSS deals with multiple non-tradable African currencies,
so it's somewhat unique,
then you can say that it has never been done. Even in the Eurozone, for example, where they have 27 countries, they have shared infrastructure, shared institutions, they have not been able to integrate that many different currencies onto a single platform.
Sounds fantastic. So what's the future of PAPSS now? What can we anticipate?
Okay, so we started up with your traditional commercial banks connecting into PAPSS. Now we're dealing with a lot of fintechs who are now even further extending the value to remote areas. And fintechs have been very good in dealing with the customer experience and the interaction through mobile devices and mobile apps. So we are now integrating these fintechs across Africa, and they will be able to move money between one wallet and any bank account, and they can also receive money from any bank account in Africa into their wallets. So the next frontier for us is, I talk about the fintechs, but then we have received a lot of interest from global partners from different parts of the world who want to connect into PAPSS. We've had requests from the Chinese, the Indians, and a few other. And again, I always say that we will connect to everyone. We're a network. And therefore, if there is business and trade that exists between those corridors, any payment system in that regard is welcome to connect to PAPSS. So you are going to see a lot more in that regard.
It's fantastic to hear all this because essentially, just as you pointed out, PAPSS is somewhat unique in terms of how it has been able to connect also on non-tradable currencies across the continent on, if you like, a single infrastructure.
Yeah.
But let's now talk about what is enabling, because we do know that the Afreximbank is all about enabling trade, interconnecting the continent. What, in your view, has PAPSS enabled for businesses, for individuals, for small businesses, for large businesses across the continent?
So I just heard Jeffrey Sachs talk about the 1.5 billions. I used to say that there exists 1.4 billions around the world. So I thought that was a uniquely me language, but then clearly the idea is universal. So when you compare Africa with China, with India, you find that what you have is we are separated by borders. We are separated by different currencies. We are separated by a lot of things. So Africa has not been able to achieve the amount of scale that all these other countries have achieved because of all of these divisions. So what PAPSS has done is actually to create a single rail that actually removes completely all of these boundaries, and therefore people can create one innovation or create one product or a service in one remote part of Africa and not look at just 1 million people in their country, but they can begin to see 1.4 billion people as their market. So PAPSS has essentially, or is in the process of actually eliminating those borders that separate us as Africans for the good of the continent. Now, you have a shoemaker in a remote place like Aba, who today had to go through all manners of processes, and sometimes he had to even find intermediaries somewhere in Europe who would take his shoes and sell it, rebrand it and sell for himself. Now, this guy is able to now look at the rest of Africa and say, okay, this is my market. I will sell into those markets and not worry about how I get settled because PAPSS has lifted that burden. And so that's one of the tangible benefits that we're beginning to see. We're not quite where we want to take it to, but we're beginning to see that as a benefit. We're also seeing the benefit of, we had this program where we spoke to some of our customers or people who have used our products. And this trader says to us that before, he would send money from Nigeria, to Ghana to buy certain fabrics. And sometimes it took 3, 4, 5 days to confirm those payments. That now it's instant, okay, and that gives him more time to actually sell his products. And therefore, again, economic activity actually results in economic growth. And of course, you see that when you measure with parameters like the GDP. And we think that just the presence of PAPSS will at scale, will drive a significant impact on the African economy.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all these details with us.
Yeah,
I look forward to the future.
One more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
And which is because one thing that we don't speak a lot to is the fact that this is a vision that actually predates me. It's a vision of the founding fathers, which started in 1963, where one of their resolutions was that Africa needed a Pan-African payment and clearing union. And the person of Professor Orama looked at that vision, and it is still relevant today as they envisioned it in 1963. So he decided that he needed to give vent to that vision that is 60 years old. So that is what gave birth to PAPSS. So I would like to really salute President Orama, given that this is his
farewell tour.
His farewell event here in Abuja, but to salute him for being an African visionary, a leader of leaders, one that has groomed leaders from across the world. And so I doff my hat to him.
Absolutely. He deserves that honor. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.